So yeah, that was Crazy Taxi. I needed to get some water. Let's see, I have plenty of games. Like I said, I really enjoyed this system. I was actually, and I remember this system fondly because my brother, my youngest brother Bernard, he had either two of them, or I don't remember how I came about. I know that he gave me his when I first got into the Army. So I remember my mother sending me a 20-inch TV, my brother sending me his Dreamcast, and by that time all my roommates and battle buddies, they were all on the PlayStation kick, and I was still rocking the Dreamcast. And the main game that I was playing on the Dreamcast was Resident Evil. Resident Evil Code Veronica was definitely one of my favorites. Why? Because it felt like you were playing a movie. Like, and I remember a couple of my battle buddies who were in the barracks. They would literally come by my room just to watch me play this game because they, we would cut the lights off. All the jump scenes, from the zombies jumping out and all the cut scenes that felt like really real at the time. Like, it's funny now, but at the time it was like, so it was pretty cool. Like it was, I just remember how innovative it was, like I'll just let you just see the beginning. I'm not going to play, but you're sucked in immediately. But it tells you this game contains scenes of explicit violence and gore. Now, if that ain't a warning, I don't know what is. Capcom's been doing a great job for a long time. So yeah, that was what got me hooked very early on. So let's back out of this and we'll continue to show you what else we got on this. So 44 games for the Dreamcast. Next is a system that so a lot of stuff came out in Japan that never made it over to the US, right? Of course, that's where they make the stuff. So there was a system that was originally the Nintendo. Well, it should have been the Nintendo, but when it got here, it became Nintendo. But this system is called the Family Computer Disk System. That's exactly how it looked. It was a cartridge-based system. It even had a floppy disk drive, which I think, like, how much could you write to a floppy disk at the time, right? So it didn't last long. It was in Japan, and it was just a funny looking. I call it Nintendo Part 1, pretty much. So it was an 8-bit system. It just had a whole bunch of Japanese titles, so you wouldn't know about it here. See up there is Japanese, a bunch of Japanese titles. So that's called a Commodore Dracula. But clearly that's Castlevania. So now you know where the stuff comes from. People who know what Castlevania is, but that's called a Commodore Dracula. So they had a lot of stuff, and then it's Aliens. I wonder if they had Mario back then. Let me try to see. Oh, but they did have Donkey Kong. Wife loves Donkey. So that's in the family disc. I'm just curious to see if they have any Mario in here. I don't see Mario. But yeah, a bunch of, they do have, oh, Pac-Man. Something called Pro Wrestling. I think I remember this. With the reference, you know, with these funny sounds, these graphic sounds. They even have Roger Rabbit. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think they got, oh no, they do have Super Mario Brothers. Let's take a look at that. See, this was their Nintendo. So that's Super Mario Bros. That's Mario too. I bet you there's some transition scenes that are different on this system than the actual Nintendo. But that's crazy. I never checked that out. So it's still an 8-bit system though. 8-bit system that I have 209 games that will never get played. That's crazy. Unless somebody just says, oh, I've heard about this. Let me check it out. Alright, next to this is the Sega Game Gear. Now this was the console made by Sega. They wanted to try to capitalize on the handheld division that was being held down by Nintendo. They were the reigning and defending and ultimate champ when it came to handheld consoles. That's even getting all the way up to the PSP. Sony did not dent Nintendo when it came to the handheld console sales. It's crazy. They are the reigning champ, even when it came to the DS, but I'll get to that later. So yeah, I have 335 games available for the Game Gear. And again, it was in color, but it was mainly a lot of Japanese titles. And the knock on the Game Gear back in the day is that the battery didn't last long, and they're I mean, they had cool graphics for the time period. I mean, look, 93. Had my favorite Centipede on there. They had some good titles. And even the Game Gear had a TV tuner. I don't know, most people don't remember if you had one, but it drained all your battery. You really couldn't watch it, you know. So I don't know what their thought process for putting the TV tuner on there, but it's pretty cool. They had some cool games. My brother had one of these. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I loved that show, but that's a whole different thing. Alright, so next to that is the reigning, defending, handheld console champion, Nintendo Game Boy. I had one of these, and I don't want to sound salty, but I remember the day that I lost this. And by lost, I mean by my brother giving it to our next door neighbor and never retrieving it back. I could not figure out what entered that boy's brain into thinking he can give something that didn't belong to him away. But I guess being 40 years old, I need to get over it, right? Yeah, I need to get over it. But anyway, I had a Game Boy. I definitely didn't have 770 games that I have today, so I can get over it. Game Boy was black and white 8-bit system. I used to like to play Paperboy and I don't know what else I used to love to play on the Game Boy, but that's what it looked like. Oh, they got Alien vs. Predator. I'm like, look at those cheesy graphics. Graphics is crazy. I'm wondering if they had, so they had Bart Simpson's Escape. They always did something. Look at that. I did have this game. I remember this game. Yeah, I used to, yeah. And I had the Batman game. Batman the video. This one, I had this game. I would stay up all night trying to beat this thing. It's so cheesy. But, they even got Beetlejuice. Oh, they got Beavis and Butthead on this one too. Black and white though. Beetlejuice the cartoon. But yeah, got a lot of titles on this. So 770 games on the Game Boy. Now, you can't have the Game Boy and not have the Game Boy Advance, right? Right. So I got the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance, 1,129 games. Now, clearly, a big jump up in graphic quality from the Game Boy to Game Boy Advance. Very great quality. It was a cool system. I mean, look at this. Ultra Beast. Yeah, American Idol. Pretty cool system though. It had decent graphics for the time period. So that's that. And before that, Game Boy Advance, they had the Game Boy Color because again, I didn't think Game Boy had to do anything because they had already outsold the other two systems. Pretty much the market, the handheld market. They didn't have to come out. It was cool that they came out with the Game Boy Color, but that's what they did. And I have 535 games of Game Boy Color. So I'm so serious. I never play any of these. This is all for nostalgia for the reason I have any of these titles or these systems. I wanted to, and that's the main reason I'm doing this video because I don't know, one day this thing might go down and I don't even want to take the time to try to fix it or replace it or do anything. However, I do have backups of all these games, so it wouldn't be much for me to, rebuild another system and put it in this cabinet. So that's Game Boy Color. Now, next to that is a system that I do play frequently, is the Nintendo GameCube. And the GameCube, I have 54 games of this. And I really like their games. The main title that came out before it came out on the, it was on the 64 first, but it came out on the GameCube that I used to like to play was Super Smash Bros. Melee. But my favorite title on this, and it's a cheesy game. When I say it's cheesy, it's really cheesy. But I freaking love it. I don't know why, but I just do. And I'm just going to start it up for y'all. Well, I kind of know why. Growing up as a kid, I watched kung fu movies, wrestling, and monster flicks. That's all I watched. And my favorite all-time monster was... Take a guess. Take a guess. You don't know yet. You gotta... I'll give you a hint. A big hint. Starts with the letter G. You should be all the way hot. You should get it now. That was my favorite monster in the monster films. Whenever he fought anybody, he or she, I don't know it. That's my favorite monster. You got it. Godzilla. Two things that I love about Godzilla. That's number one. I love that yell. Always have since a kid. I used to just walk around and do it. I'll show you my second partner. If he does it. There you go. That's my second favorite part about Godzilla. Now, excuse me 1 second. That's totally rude of me to walk in front of the camera. Now, for some reason, I can't set up to exit this emulator with the buttons. So I have to use the keyboard, the wireless keyboard that I have set up to the computer to get out of this. Whenever I need to get out of this system. I think this and the Wii are the only two systems that I have to use the keyboard to get out of again. So I just hit escape there. So, yeah, that's one that I always play on GameCube. Alright, now, this next system, I want to say I hold it near and dear to my heart. It just has good memories. I had a childhood friend from elementary school, John Burroughs Elementary in Washington, D.C. That's where I went. That wasn't my first elementary. I went to St. Francis de Sales Catholic School for first and second grade, but never mind. That's a long story. So anyway, I go to John Burroughs, and my instructions every day was to come straight home, walk my brother straight home from school, right? We had old school grandparents. They didn't play that you go over somebody's house and do homework and play basketball or whatever. But anyway, I was a hard-headed somebody. I just wanted to go over Keenan Willis' house. You want to know why I wanted to go over Keenan Willis' house? Keenan Willis had everything at his house. He had a nice house. He had his own basketball court in his backyard. So, and he had this. He had the Sega Master System. That was the first time I seen the Sega Master System. I didn't know. I was like, Sega Master System? What's the Sega Master System? He had Sega Master System, and I was like, oh, I gotta go over his house to play Sega Master System. So, on the Sega Master System, I have 32 games? Yep, 332 games. And this was just this didn't sell well here at all. Like, it totally dudded in America. That's why they had to work on, that's another reason why Sega really fell off as fast as they did, because they always had to keep making they weren't making systems because people were clamoring for them. They was making systems because the system before sucked. Like, they only have like really one or two good systems that really sold well in the United States, and that's the Sega Genesis, and and then they kept trying to do a whole bunch of add-ons from that, and it just killed them. So anyway, Sega Master System isn't their first system here. Well, yeah, it's their first system here, because there's another system later on that I'll show you that I have. But the Sega Master System was the first kind of a big deal for the Asian market here in the United States. And I have 332 games. And it has, as you see the graphics, it's an 8-bit system. It was barely a step over the Atari. But it was still pretty cheesy. I mean, it definitely was better than Atari, but not by much. Not by much at all. Like, prime example, look at Alter Beast on here. Pretty cheesy. Pretty cheesy. So, that's that. Alright, so I brought it up earlier. Now, let's talk about the next system that I have. It's the same. Okay, in the Asian market, it was called the Mega Drive. When it got here, it was called Sega Genesis. Same thing. This one did very well here. Everybody remembers the Super Nintendo and, well, actually, it was the Nintendo and Sega Genesis war, because Genesis came out a little bit after Nintendo. Nintendo wiped the market out as far as home consoles. Arcade was still very popular, but when it came to home gaming, Nintendo was kicking butt. There was a Nintendo everywhere. Everybody had a Nintendo. All right. It was priced well. It was had a whole bunch of nice, cool. It had the power pad, had the cool accessories anyway. So Sega needed to find something to try to tap into the market of home consoles, because, like I said, the Master System didn't do it. But Genesis, however, or Mega Drive, as it was called, in over in the West or East, that's what they had it called, and it was a great system. I have 939 games for the Genesis. And you couldn't lose with the Genesis. I mean, they came out with something to combat Mario. And everybody should know what that character is. Now let's just go straight to it. Because if I don't have that game on here, that's just crazy, right? How do you have a Genesis and not have the greatest character? There we go. Let's go. And there he is with his gun. I gotta do it. I don't think I've ever played this on here. But let's try it out. Yeah, I remember that. I remember my Genesis. My aunt Arlene bought me my Genesis. have yet. That's the first time I played that, and since I was a kid, that's crazy. So that was cool. That was pretty cool. So anyway, that's Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. All right, next I have Nintendo 64 or N64, and people love this console. I never had one. I was dating this young lady when I was in the military, and her kids had one. That's the first I had ever seen of it. I didn't know anything about the Nintendo 64, so I was just like, oh, I never had the system. You gotta try it out, right? So I added that on here. I got 303 games for the N64. People swear by it. Got a lot of good games. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So, a lot of cool games. Nintendo 64. So, the next system I have is the other system, handheld system that I was telling you about. The reason why Sony could not really compete with Nintendo, the company Nintendo, when it came down to these handheld systems, because they kept killing the market. Like it wasn't even fair. Like, I don't even know what the number, like total handheld systems by Nintendo versus total numbers done by Sony. It's not funny. It's like a bad presidential race. Too soon? Anyway, Nintendo DS. DS, I have 383 games. I don't know if I have any snapshots of any games because, I guess I have no snapshots. No snapshots whatsoever. Not a single snapshot. That's something I'm going to have to fix. And it's probably the naming convention. There's a script that finds these videos, and if the names are not matching that of the script, it won't find a video. I did not realize I didn't have no. That's something I'll have to fix. Alright. It's nice to know. Nintendo DS has no snapshots. Gotta fix that. Alright. So let's back out of that. Let me just make sure that this even works. Yes, I've never tried to play this. Alright. Scribble DS, whatever that is. Oh, so that's like the top screen for the DS. Oh, it's asking the pen size. I don't know how that works. So, another time for that one. In fact, let me change the, let's try something different. This is us trying something out because alright, that one didn't even open, so let's change the emulator. Let's try that one. Didn't work. Alright, so back out of that. I don't have time for that. Alright, so the next system, which was very popular in the arcade, well, they made a ton of fighting games, but when they came to making them their own system, didn't do so well here. I have no idea why. Maybe it was the price, maybe it was marketing, I don't know. But the next system I have is the Neo Geo system. All the great fighting games back in the day came from Neo Geo. I have 137 games. I mean, you can count out wrestling, all your shooter, flying vertical shooters, art of fighting. Breakers. Fatal Furies, people who were Fatal Fury fans. King of the Monsters. And Metal Slug. Metal Slug was huge made by Neo Geo, so Metal Slug. What else was pretty big on Neo Geo? Samurai Showdown. They just had all the cool fighting games. I mean, look at the cool colors. This is all pre-Street Fighter, right? Look at that, that's pretty cool. And then they had Samurai Showdown. So I have these titles on arcade as well. That's why I hardly ever play the Neo Geo system, because I have most of the titles already on arcade. Next, I have, that's right, Nintendo. Alright. Nintendo, I think I have practically every Nintendo game that ever came out. Possibly. 772 games on the Nintendo. Now, look at that 10-yard fight. Let's do a quick test. I'm going to go to this game, and when I get to the game, you tell me the all-time famous code. Alright, here we go. Alright. Here's the question. This is the Jeopardy question. Pressing this code gives you 30 men. You give up? Come on. What is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start? Or BA, start, if you just want to do it with one player. Good job. I knew you had it in you. So, yep, Nintendo. Next, we have these. I don't even think these made it to the States. Neo Geo Pocket. I have 10 games. And then I have Neo Geo Pocket Color. 40 games. I'm not going to go back. You get it. I'm not going to keep going. Now, this one was interesting. This is the PC Engine. Now, the PC Engine was called something else here. I'm going to give you a hint. The first word is turbo. Still at a loss. Second word is graphics. Alright. The last hint is a number that ends the title of this console, what it was called here. Anyway, I have 140 games of that, and again, it didn't do well. It was a cool system. I think it was overpriced at the time, and it was trying to compete with the Sega market, and it was trying to compete with the Nintendo market. And needless to say, it failed miserably. Had a lot of cool games that nobody knew about. because again, it was mainly trying to appease the Asian market and not so much. It's a cool system though. If you had the money for the TurboGrafx 16. If you didn't know what I was hinting at, I just gave you the title. So, PC Engine in Asia, here it was called TurboGrafx 16. Alright, next I have the PSP. Now, PSP did well for Sony, but when it came to lining up against the DS, the Game Boy Advance, not even close. Not even close. Alright, I got 294 games for that. That's with that. Next, keeping with the PlayStation theme, I got the very first PlayStation. Now, my brother had this as well. You hit this theme? My brother had a lot of stuff, right? So my youngest brother Bernard had the very first Sony PlayStation. And what was big about PlayStation at the time, like they wanted to use a character just like Nintendo did. So, and Sega used Sonic and Nintendo used Mario. So PlayStation came up with Crash Bandicoot. So let me see what else. Also, Game Day was a big deal. Before they came out with Master, they had Game Day.
On the 22-yard line.
And their biggest title was Resident Evil. I used to watch my brother play this, and it was like watching a mystery live being played. It's pretty cheesy now because of the graphics, but nowadays they really up the ante on these newer consoles. PS4 and Xbox One got these games looking really realistic. So that's the PlayStation 1. Alright. Next, the last system prior to the Dreamcast was this system. This was the real reason I believe Sega took a dump people took a dump on Sega, shall I say. It's a Sega Saturn. Now, I had a Sega Saturn. I remember when I got my Sega Saturn, I used to go with this girl from Northwestern High School named Giselle. Giselle, we were going together when we were in high school, and she was in Northwestern, I was at High Point. And my senior year, I asked her to get me this Sega Saturn. I begged her to get me this Sega Saturn. She was like real strict. I was like, I'm not supposed to use this credit card, and you gotta pay me back, and all that other stuff. Like, stupid boy. Of course, I meant to pay her, but yeah, I think I might have gave her $40, and the system was like $300 something at the time. Stupid kid. Not her, me. I was stupid. I was real dumb. But anyway, my mother really liked her, by the way, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, Sega Saturn, I had one, and I remember I probably had like 10 or 15 games for it, and I remember when I was going, I kept it. I had it all the way up until I was going away into the military. So I had it from the age of 17, and I went in the Army at 21, and there was my cousin's brother, Tyrone had a son, and you know, I remember just being at church, and I just remember just bagging it all up and giving it to him. I just gave him my Sega Saturn, and you know, I'm going away. There was no need for me to have this console. I mean, sheesh, I had it for 5 years, which is longer than it actually stayed on the market. It didn't even stay on the market that long. So anyway, that's the story about Sega Saturn. I had one, and I wanted to put some stuff on there. One of the games that I really liked about Sega Saturn was Daytona USA. I played Daytona USA all the time. That and Virtual Cop 2. So I only have 18 games for the Sega Saturn, but they're ones that I enjoy playing. Next is the Genesis 32X. Now, that was the thing with the Genesis, right? It came out with like a bunch of different things to try to extend its life. They came out first with the 32X, then they came out with the Sega CD, all these different attachments, right? Like trying to tap into more power, more graphics. So the 32X is, that's what it basically was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a 32-bit graphic system because the Genesis by itself was only a 16-bit graphic system. And then they're trying to tell you you're going to get an extra 16 bits by putting on this attachment. I don't know if it's true or not, but it was only a couple. I only have 36 games for the 32X, and it was only a couple of them that I really played. Now I used to play Doom until I would physically get sick. Literally, like I thought I was giving myself epilepsy because the screen was moving around so much. And I remember I would play for like hours, and by playing for hours, I would get dizzy. So much so that I would have to like take a break for like 4 hours from playing for 2 hours. But that's why I think my whole video game, I started getting in trouble with myself and my vision and stuff. Let me see, what else? Do I even have that game on here? No, I don't. That's the 32X. It's whack and it's whack as it was. Now, a system that I remember this system like yesterday because it was, my grandfather was sick and I was the only one standing. Well, my grandmother had already passed and it was just my grandfather in the house. And I remember working at this window place selling like windows. Going door to door canvassing, getting people to upgrade their windows. And I remember when I went to Funko Land and I bought this system. The system had already been out and not making any new games, but I always wanted one, and that's the Sega CD. Sega CD, I have 123 games. And one of my favorite games on Sega CD is, let's go up this way. It's the great and powerful Road Rash. Because they had live, just like they had music. It was like a great music CD while you were playing and punching people and kicking people off their mics. Rusty Cage playing. I mean, come on now. Anyway, now this first came out on the 3DO. It had a great soundtrack. So that was, I love Sega CD. Now, that system I was telling you about that came out before the Master System is my next system, and it's the SG-1000. Talk about crap. I got 75 games for this system. Crap, just crap, alright? So, this is on the Atari level, literally. This system never made it here. Look at that. That's supposed to be a baseball game. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Look at that. Now I guess if you're 4 or 5 and it's the 70s, maybe 82, I guess this would go over. But once you've seen Nintendo, which looked way better than this, even though it wasn't much better, it still was way better than that. You wouldn't have wanted that. Alright, so clearly I never played those games. Never. Alright. The next system, Super Nintendo. Talk about, oh, 1 second. Let me just put some more light up in here. Hopefully that doesn't give a glare. Let me see. Oh, it's like a glare, but not a bad glare. So Super Nintendo, I have 788 games of the Super Nintendo. I think my brother had this system too. Yes, he did. That boy had, it wasn't much he didn't have. Now, I'm going to tell you my all-time favorite Super Nintendo game. Well, that was before this one came out. Let's see. No, that's not my all-time. Let's just go to my all-time favorite Super Nintendo game. They gotta have it. Of course they have it. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So, gotta pause this video because I gotta go pick up my wife, and this has been going for quite a bit anyway. Well, yes, Street Fighter. Still love this game. Alright, I'll be back.